Welcome back to the channel, guys. It's an absolute pleasure to be with you again. My apologies for not being online for the last little bit. Just really busy with block week here at law school. We were doing a lot of briefs, a lot of memos, just a lot of work, oral assignments and everything. So it's been very busy. Apologies for that. I am back with another video. I think for this video I wanted to really talk and touch on the LSAT video that I made initially, my first video. It seems like it's got the most views, and I feel that I could do it a little bit better than I did in that video. There's a lot of wasted time, and I just think I can get the message across quicker. So that's what I'm going to try to do with this video here. If you have any questions, post them in the comments, and let's just dive right into this video. Tip number one, the first video essentially talked about how you need to put enough time to study for it. And I think the tip should have essentially said that you need to do a diagnostic test at the beginning of your study. So at the inception of your study period, do a diagnostic test and determine, based off of that diagnostic test, how much time you're going to need to study, right? If you're scoring below a 150, you're going to need at least 6 months, right? Keep that in mind. If you score around the 150 mark, then you're in a position where you could decide, hey, do I want to put 3 to 6 months? Somewhere around there, it would be okay for you. If you're scoring above the 150, if you're close to 160, then in all honesty, you're more than likely going to get away with 3 month study period. You're not going to need more than that. I don't think it's worth the amount of effort that you're going to put into it, what you're going to get out of it, right? It is not going to, there's not going to be a value, a proposition there for you. If you're scoring in the high 150s, put 3 months, it's going to be more than enough. I think that's the gist of that tip, and that's essentially what it was trying to relay. It took a really long time to relay that though. So tip number two, that based off of that, was once you determine how much time you're going to need to invest, spend some time going over the foundations of English grammar, over syntax, over just, and I'll link 2 books that really helped me in the process. One of them has to do with sentence structures. I found that to be really eye-opening in terms of dealing with different words. When you're in the LSAT, when you're doing especially the logical reasoning section, there's times where they'll throw a number of different words that, if you don't understand what function they play in the sentence, you can get confused, right? A big part of doing good on this test is understanding and differentiating between different words, between different elements. So if you have the ability to know what each word is doing within the framework of that sentence, it's a lot easier to move forward. And there's also a lot of value in understanding how sentences are built, how paragraphs are built too, because in the LSAT they test that a lot, right? The flow between the premise and the conclusion, how they interact. It's a huge part of it. If you can get better at it, you're going to do a lot better on the LSAT. It's something that helped me, and I think I can't stress that tip enough, because it's not something that you see other people provide tips on. And I have another video where I'm going through an actual public LSAT, the test prep that the company provides for you. Actually, it's LSAT that provides it on their website. So I have that video on my channel as well. Check it out. Essentially, I go along with you, and we solve a bunch of questions from the logical reasoning, and I'm going to do part 2 as well, maybe tomorrow. I'm thinking of doing it, hopefully posted by next week. The third tip was, I guess, a little controversial, because it really is going to depend on where you are financially, but in my opinion, given the importance of this test and how expensive law school is and all of that, and also how fundamentally important it can be in securing scholarships, depending on where you score on the LSAT, definitely invest in a good set of prep books, and also just buy all the prep tests. There's about 89 of them. I actually, I bought test 89 here just because I like doing the practice. I like doing the LSATs. I feel that it keeps my mind thinking. So it's a fun thing for me to do, as nerdy as that sounds, but I like going through tests as much as possible. So don't hesitate to buy these tests. It's going to improve your ability to reason regardless of how well it helps you on the LSAT, and it will help you on the LSAT, but in addition to that, it will also help you just in your general reading comprehension, and also in your ability to reason. So get all the tests. That's the third tip. And I guess flowing from that, the fourth tip had to do with how you're going to structure your study period. I think that a big portion of people don't necessarily structure their study schedule the way that it's most conducive to success. And what I mean by that is that I don't think you should just blindly take prep tests and not focus on what's happening behind the scenes, right? If you're getting questions wrong, if you're going to the prep test and you're just seeing the same mark over and over again, you really need to do something different in order to do better. So the fourth tip has to do a lot with studying, and I think it's really important to, at least for the first 10, 15, 20, maybe even more tests, don't put a time limit on it, right? Do not put a time limit on it. Go through a test or whatever pace is comfortable at that point, in order to assimilate all that information and let it make sense, let it resonate in your brain, right? You want the information to sink in, you want to understand how they do different things, the logic behind it, right? Take as much time as you need. If it takes an hour to do a section, give yourself that time, right? Just so you can really understand the basics of it before you actually start working on speed, because like speed comes when you're proficient at something, right? If you're good at something, you're going to be able to do it much better. But if you're just trying to do it good and you don't understand the basics, you're never going to do as good as you normally would have, or as you would have if you did know the basics. So that's another big tip for me. Definitely the first 20 tests, the first 30 tests, maybe even, spend that time, go through the tests slowly, don't stress it, and go through them as you're going through the books, right? Read, do a test, read some parts of the book, do a test, read some parts of the books. Don't stress about it. The first few tests, 1 to 20, they're not that relevant in today's, I guess, milieu, in today's environment as well, because they're so old. A lot of the tests, I guess, dynamic, although the foundational principles are the same, there's a lot that has changed over the years. So you can easily burn those tests without getting yourself into any trouble. You're going to have so many other tests that you can work on, and it's really going to help you understand the basics. And finally, the tip number 5, and this is a tip that I personally struggled because I didn't do as good on this as I should have, and that's to simulate the test environment, right? When you're doing practice exam, after you've done all the books, after you've done the first 20 tests, when you actually start diving into doing tests, prepping for the actual LSAT, right? Like when you're going to sit and take the exam, do the tests as if you are at the exam center, right? Put yourself in a position where there is some noise in the background. Be very strict on time, right? And although you're never going to be able to simulate that anxiety that you're going to feel on test day, it is going to help. It is going to help a lot. And then the other tip that I had in the video that I think is really fundamental importance is to schedule another exam, right? It's going to be a little bit more money, but schedule another exam right after this exam. And that way, when you walk into this exam, you're not going to stress. You're going to know, hey, if I do bad, I'm just going to cancel the score. I'm going to go to the next one. It's not the end of the world. So I think that's a big part, because when you get bogged down in that question, if you start stressing, and I remember it happened to me on the first section, if you start stressing like, holy shit, I'm not getting this, I can't understand this, especially when you got adrenaline flooding your system, like the fight or flight is going off, your ability to reason is diminished substantially. So definitely have that in the back of your head, that you have another test and you can relax and not worry about it. All right, with that, we're going to conclude it. Thanks again for stopping by. Subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be providing a lot more content about law school. Like I said, the first block week just finished, the 3-week block week. Past that, the foundations course, and we're getting into the actual law school stuff coming this Monday. So I'll keep you informed in terms of anything that I learn, anything that I think is important. I think I'm going to do a video on writing briefs, a video on memorandums of law, and then just a lot of more videos that have to do with law school, in addition to some more videos when it comes to finance, the things that interest me. So sign up. Sorry that I can't post all the time. I do have a lot of other engagements as well, but I will post as often as I possibly can. Thank you.